Okay, so this letter that we're going to learn today is a letter from the Rebbe sent to all the Jewish people. And as you can imagine, a letter that's sent to all the Jewish people is something that pertains to everybody. And therefore, it's some fundamental things that we need to know about where we are and where we're going as far as this Yontif that Hashem is giving us. What is it about? Let's go. Baruch Hashem Yiralf Nissen. I sent the PDF to the chat. Tashach Beis, Brooklyn, New York. La'chein Yisrael b'chol makom shehein b'chol asar v'asar Hashem leichu. To our brothers, the children of Israel in every place, God bless you all. Shalom u'bracha, greetings and blessings. Shalom rav u'bracha, great peace and blessings. Chag v'amatzis van cheresenu, shu chol chilk min ha'teira, v'shmos teira hiro v'adracha, meiru ma'avilonu es muna nochen shal musik cheres. The holiday of matzis, time of our freedom, which is a part of the Torah, and the word Torah means instruction, indicates and clarifies to us the true meaning of the concept of freedom. A concept which has been explained in many different ways, and some ways which are mishunim is usually a word that indicates something which is like off. Some, like the author uses that same word, and the author talks about different translations of Tanya. Some translations which are the translations of some translations of Tanya were made deliberately to make Tanya look bad. So he says the Tanya was translated through Seifim Shainim Mashunim, through not translated. Tanya was printed through different printing houses which were different from each other, and Mashunim means which are deliberately off. So that the word freedom has that same malady. Chag HaPesach mashma la'askaros havasbaros hamashmus ha'chesed. So the holiday of Pesach explains and reminds us the true meaning of freedom. True freedom, complete freedom in all three areas that create what man is and what man's life is. Number one, first of all, regarding his soul. Regarding his body. Gimel, regarding the world around him. In each of these three areas, and all of these three areas as they are together. So Pesach is about freedom in our souls, in our bodies, and in our world. And as all three of them come together. Pirush hadavar, what this means is, a Jewish person has to be truly free in every one of these aforementioned areas. And in such a way that there shouldn't be any friction and war between them. Rather, each one should complement the other, and only then can we say that there's true freedom. Move me'elav, it's understood. Shebilti efshari hadavar shacheres amleim harmonis amura tusuk betech kach shenasham chelkam hamamish nitzel ki sheba'adam yishubu laguf. It's often understood that it's impossible for this complete and harmonious freedom, what we're talking about, to be achieved by the soul, which is actually a part of God, and the godly spark which is in man. It's impossible that the freedom is going to be achieved by the soul being subservient to the body. And the soul and the body being subjugated to the world around them. So that's not the way. You're not going to get free by your neshama serving your body, and by your soul and your body serving the world around you. Someone who is higher cannot serve someone who is lower and be happy and to be satisfied. In our scenario, the soul serving the body, and the soul by serving the world, which in the echelons of importance, the soul is higher than the body is higher than the world. If the soul serves the body serves the world, that's not going to be something that is enduring and satisfying. That's not free. The highest thing in the person, in the highest echelon, is the soul. The soul will never agree to become subservient to the body. So the immediate result of this analysis is the clear result, the real clear conclusion. Next page. That it's understood that true freedom is achieved only when the lower parts of the person, the body and the world around him, are elevated to the highest possible level, getting closer to the neshama and the neshama's ambitions. And the neshama itself should be totally free from anything that stops her from being elevated. So, in order for the person to be free, it's not going to work by the neshama serving the body. On the contrary, the neshama will never want to serve the body because the neshama is the highest part, so naturally it shouldn't serve the body. Rather, freedom is accomplished by the body and the world around the person getting as close as possible to the neshama, being elevated towards the neshama, getting higher, and the neshama being free to go as high as it can. So, just thinking about this, without going further, I guess the neshama serving the body serving the world. Just without thinking too much, please. This is a letter of the Rebbe for everyone, so it's we're going to understand it better if we all share a little bit, So I think that the neshama serving the body, one thing, and this person serving the world, I think we'll really can relate to it. There are things that the world says which aren't true, and people lower their standards of what their ambitions are because of what the world says they need to do. We're embarrassed of our neighbors. As the code of Jewish law says, you should be embarrassed of keeping the Torah. And so there's things you believe in and you want to do, and your neshama wants to do, and you say, well, my body doesn't want to do it, or the world doesn't want me to do it. So when you listen to what your body says or what the world says, you're not exercising your true strength. Your true strength, your highest power is your neshama. So if you're going to give in to what the world says you should do, what the world says you should be, what the body says you should do, so then you're limiting your neshama. On the other hand, if you ask your body to be elevated towards the neshama, okay, I'm just thinking out loud over here. Yes, it will cause friction because the body is likes to sleep, etc. But the body doesn't want to give away its desires. But on the other hand, the body going the ladder, the arrow going upwards is ultimately the most satisfying place to go. Everything in the world is meant to be elevated. So let's say a child who is on drugs and needs to go to college and make a life for himself and get a degree and get a job or whatever it is. So his even though he says I want to have these drugs, etc. Really, he is in prison. He's imprisoned by his urges. He's not living to what he really could reach. So it makes sense to say that freedom is about going upwards. Freedom is about the neshama going upwards and all the body in the world going up towards the highest part inside ourselves, the neshama. I think that's what the Rebbe is saying. Please chime in if you have another take on this. All the above is reflected in the story of the exile and the redemption. The Golus Mitzrayim was an absolute slavery in all the three areas that we mentioned. Number one, there was a spiritual slavery to the impure government, the low government of Egypt. There was a spiritual slavery to Mitzrayim, which was called the abomination of the world. So that's a spiritual slavery. Number two, there was a physical slavery of actually working back-breaking labor. Number three, there was also a total loss of what the Jewish people owned at that time. They, as human beings and as Jews especially, they have a certain area in the world that they were meant to should belong to them. And in this slavery, Mitzrayim, they lost any ownership of anything. They had no area in the world that they could be called theirs. So there's a spiritual slavery. They were slaves to the evil and impure, ethically evil government of Mitzrayim. There was a physical slavery, and Mitzrayim is the worst abomination of the world. Number two, there's a physical slavery, backbreaking labor. And number three, there is nothing that they own. There's no impact in the world or ownership of anything in the world. Yitzias Mitzrayim, leaving Mitzrayim. Leaving Mitzrayim also was in all three areas and in full measure. Number one, first of all, there was complete freedom of the neshama. First of all, there was full freedom of the neshama. Not only did we not have this slavery to the impurity of Mitzrayim, that the neshama wasn't enslaved to the deities of Egypt. On the contrary, God told us to take the Egyptian god and to show its worthlessness. So not only are we not enslaved to their pagan and low beliefs, on the contrary, Hashem empowered us to reveal how the emperor has no clothes and the sheep are we're going to slaughter their gods. So that's an indication of the spiritual freedom that Hashem gave us. Number two, we're learning the letter of the Rebbe from Tavshin Chav Beis. We're learning it in the Hebrew. You can get it on Rebbe Drive. We're on page Lamed Ches. Number two, there's also complete freedom from physical slavery. We left Egypt biyad rama, openly, totally, with song, with music. There was a physical slavery. We're no longer serving the Egyptians. We're totally free. We were singing. Number three, and guarding what we own in the world, we left Egypt with a lot of wealth. So there's a threefold redemption. Our souls are redeemed from the servitude to Egypt and all are represented and their ideologies and their idolatries. Number two, we were freed physically from backbreaking labor to go to song and dance. And number three, we were freed from being slaves who own nothing to having great wealth. There are some people, the Rebbe says, that are satisfied, they want to be satisfied with freedom of their soul. They learn, they daven. When it comes to eating and drinking, they become enslaved to the animal which is in man. You say, I will like to learn, I like to daven, I like to do the Jewish stuff, but when I go to do the physical things, I'm now a slave to the animal within me. That's one school of thought. So there's a more sophisticated school of thought, which recognizes the idea that the body and the body's needs have to also be free. And we have to indeed eat with a Jewish approach, a noticeably Jewish approach. So that's the second, the more sophisticated school of thought recognizes that the body has to be free too. The body needs us to also be free. So you have to approach food with a Jewish thing. Whatever the body needs has to be approached with it in a Jewish way. However, a person leaves his house, he goes out to the world to accomplish something in the world, to influence the world, to gain financially, to gain wealth, he must become enslaved to Mitzrayim. He says to himself, yes, okay, my neshama should be free. My bodily needs should also be done with a Jewish approach. Hashem says it should be done. When I go to work, there I am enslaved to Egypt. He feels the Torah and the Shulchan Aruch, the code of Jewish law, the whole concept of leaving Mitzrayim, that should be left in under lock and key. That should be locked up. He says that's a true thing, but lock that up. Or in the language of the Enlightenment movement, they used to say, be a Jew in your home and be a man in the street. That was their philosophy. So that's a more of a sophisticated kind of leaving Mitzrayim. We're not only saying that your neshama should be free, that your body should be free, but when you go out to the world, then they're your slave. They have to follow what Egypt says. So concerning all these schools of thought, the Torah addresses us and calls out to us and demands of us. Remember the day you left Mitzrayim, all days of your life. Every Jew has to remember leaving Mitzrayim every single day of his life. Remember that you are free. Remember you're free in your soul and free in your body. And how the Jewish soul and body, the free Jew, which was a free soul and body, transformed the Egyptian wealth to becoming Jewish, great Jewish wealth. Remember that God freed us. We left Mitzrayim. Our neshamas are free. Our bodies are free. And not only that, we were able to take the wealth of Egypt and make it into Yiddish wealth, the Jewish wealth. God only asks us according to our ability. He gives us, the Medrash says over there, according to his ability. But when God asks us to do something, he only asks us according to our ability. Hashem, who is the creator of man, he addresses his requests of us only in sync to our possibilities, to our capabilities. All we need to do is to have a very strong, firm desire to do the request of Hashem. This is also the only way to get to true freedom for all of us. To get free from the gullus of our souls. So the only way to be free is by arousing this firm resolve to do the will of Hashem, and that will bring us to be free from a soul exile, and as a result, being free from our own internal soul exile, this will bring us to actually be free from the exile period through Mashiach. So bracha for a kosher and joyous Pesach, an Rebbe signature. So what did we learn today? Chaim l'chaim. We learned that there are three parts to a human being. There is the soul, there's the body, and there is our area in the world. And all three of them have to have freedom. And what freedom means is not that the soul should be subservient to the body. The soul is the highest part of the person. Rather, freedom means that the soul is able to go where the soul wants to go, and the body and the world around us are elevated towards as high as they can, as close, being close to the soul and the soul's ambitions. So that in Egypt, there was a triple exile. There was an exile of our soul. We were serving a nation that was a pagan, low nation. They dominated us. They didn't allow us to be free spiritually. Number two, we had backbreaking labor. Number three, we had no ownership of anything in the world. So that the slavery was complete. And the redemption was also complete. The redemption was in a way that we were totally free from anyone telling us what we should do spiritually. We were to take the Egyptian God itself and to offer it as a gift to Hashem. We were to demonstrate how their God is worthless. That's a complete spiritual freedom. Here they were under this nation that serves the sheep. I want to say, no, the sheep is meaningless. Number two, physically, we went out of Egypt, we were singing. We were no slavery. In contrary, there's labedik, freilich, simchas. Number three, we had all the wealth from Egypt, took it out with us. So what's the message for us? It says there are some people which feel that they should be free in their neshama. How should they be free in their neshama? They should learn Torah, they should daven. When it comes to their bodily needs, they feel that they have to be slaves to the animal which is inside of them. They have to let the animal reign. The animal's just in the animal's domain. And then there are people which feel, okay, you know what? You could learn and Torah and daven, and you could eat like a Jew, and you could do all things that privately in your home, do what you need to do. But when it comes to trying to earn money, trying to do something, trying to gain property and resources, there you have to become a slave to Egypt. So Torah says that the Jewish people, not only were they freed, it's a total freedom. Their neshamas were freed, their bodies were freed, and they were able to even take the Egyptian wealth and make it Jewish wealth. And that's how do we do this though? Hashem only asks us according to our ability. The way we accomplish this is by arousing within ourselves this firm resolve to do the will of Hashem, and that brings us personal spiritual freedom. That will bring us to Mashiach. That's the letter. Any questions, comments, criticism, tomato, cucumbers? Yes, Dr. Ressman. So you're reaching out for those keyboards. No, you're not. Okay, have a great day, Dr. Ressman. Great day, Yonatan. Great day, Yitzhak. Great day, Reb Zev. Great day, Reb Beryl. Great day, David.